A case that caught my eye, that concluded just this week as it happens, is a case of someone who, by the way, happens to be a former prison guard. He was one of those people that went on social media and found himself on the wrong side of the law. He joins me now. This is Mark Heath. Good evening to you, Mark.
Hi, how are you?
I found your story very interesting. Many people have followed, agog really, with some of the things that have happened legally following this horrendous incident. Now, I've seen some of the things that you tweeted. I will say, Mark, that some people will find some of the things that you tweeted offensive. Some people will find some of the things that you tweeted perhaps racist. And on the other side of it, other people will find some of the things that you tweeted completely fine, and they will find it completely agreeable. And this is the nature of society. We have platforms and we have free speech. But after you'd posted the things that you'd posted online, let's start the story here. Tell the viewers what happened next.
So, yeah, you're quite right, and good evening to everybody. You're quite right. Some people might find it a bit close to the bone, but that's what a democracy, that's what freedom of speech is all about. I'll just give you a quote from the French writer Voltaire. And Voltaire says, "I disapprove of what you say, but I defend to the death your right to say it." We used that at my trial. A week after that incident, I think the UK was on fire with riots and whatnot. 7 o'clock on a Wednesday morning, about 7 officers turned up at my door. I was the only one awake. My lad was downstairs with me. I sleep downstairs because I've got back issues. And yeah, came in, told me what the issue was. And the initial charge they arrested me for was publishing written material with the intent to stir up racial hatred. Carted me off, wasn't allowed to speak to my wife. And I was taken away by 2 officers, and the other officers remained at my property and searched it from top to bottom. Took my lad's iPad off him and phones and anything like that. But yeah, turned the house upside down, and then that was that.
And how did you feel at that point?
Like anybody would, I suppose. I kind of knew why they were here, so I was quite calm throughout it all, to be honest, because I saw what was happening, and I was fully aware that people were being arrested just for having an opinion. But I was nervous. It was stressful. I suffer from seizures, so part of my seizures, the non-epileptic seizures, is when I'm in too much stress. I have seizures, unfortunately. So being dragged off by the police obviously heightened that. But it was more the impact on my family, really. I mean, I handled it quite calmly throughout, but it was massive for my wife and for my boy. It really affected them.
So you say you get taken away by the police. Taken where?
Straight to the police station. I live in Oakham in Rutland, so I went to a Leicestershire police station, straight into custody, straight into a cell, and remained there for a period of time. I was quite ill when I was in the cell. I was having, my pain had gone through the roof. I didn't have my medication with me at that time. I'm on an awful lot of medication. And I started having these seizures. So I actually spent the first night that I was arrested in hospital at Leicester Royal Infirmary, being pumped with morphine and stuff to try and get my pain under control, and stayed there for over a day. Then I was taken back to the police cells.
And when you was in hospital, was there officers alongside you? Were you on your own? How does that work?
There was 3 officers at all time. It was like I was a murderer, if I'm honest. The security around me was weird. It was like I was some kind of mass murderer or something. They were changing the shifts, and there was always 3 officers at any time. There was always 2 people by my bed. Yeah, it was quite intense, and they never let me out of their sight, not once.
Wow. And then, so once you felt better in yourself, they took you back where? To the police station?
Back to the police station. And then I got the impression that they wanted to get things going quickly because of my health. So I was quickly charged. That was the second day. I was charged for the offence. So obviously CPS approved that, and then arrangements were made for me to be taken away in a van to go to HMP Leicester.
So you was charged with how many offences?
It was one offence, which was publishing written material with the intent to stir up racial hatred. However, that changed later on.
So then, because a lot of my viewers, they've never really been through this legal process before. So at what point do you enter a plea? Was it at this point? Is it later down the line? Just tell people how that works.
It's later on down the line. So you are interviewed under police caution. They asked me if I wanted a duty solicitor, which I did. And then you're taken into a room, and there was 3 police officers in there, interviewed under caution. The first time you enter a plea is once the charges happen. So how are you going to be pleading? I was not guilty from the get-go.
And did you ever waver on that? You say you was not guilty from the get-go. I mean, we've seen many people plead guilty to these incidents. Did you ever have a moment where you felt that you should, or that you was advised that you should, or confused about what you should do?
There's a lot of pressure to plead guilty. There was talks of there's no way out of this. People are being put into prison. There was an awful lot of pressure. I felt a lot of pressure to be going down that route by different individuals. And that was all the way through the process. I mean, I had to go to a magistrate's court first and do a plea there, which I pleaded not guilty. And they almost laughed at me as if to say, why are you pleading not guilty? And it was like that. And that was a plea hearing whilst I was in HMP Peterborough. They had to do it by video link because of my health. I was in a wheelchair at this point. And then it got upgraded to Crown Court. So once I was charged by the police, I went straight to HMP Leicester. I was there for nearly 2 weeks, pleading not guilty at the magistrate's court, and then we requested bail because of my health. I was having seizures, no end of seizures. My medication had been messed up. They took all my medication that I'd been on for 4 years and just stopped it completely. So my health just nosedived. So then when we went to the Crown Court, obviously you plead again, pleaded not guilty. And then we put another bail application in. And to my surprise, it was given. But I was released with a tag on my leg, a curfew from 7 till 7. And I was not allowed to go on any form of social media up until my trial last week.
So just to be clear, so you were remanded. So essentially you were in prison, for want of a better phrase, for how long?
2 weeks initially.
Yeah.
Until I was granted bail. So my case is, I think it's really quick. So the turnaround of my case, people online have been saying that it can't be that quick. It can't be that quick. It was. Once I was charged and once I had gone through the Crown Court, they set a trial date for the 21st of October, which they said could change, but it didn't. So it was a really quick turnaround. So I was in prison for a period of 2 weeks, which was horrible. My health went really downhill during them 2 weeks. And then I was out for a period of 10, 11 weeks, I think it was, on tag with the bail conditions until my trial last week.
Right, so you might be familiar with prison because I know that you've previously worked in prisons, but just explain to the viewers at home that have never set foot inside of a prison. When you say you was in a prison for weeks, describe what life was like for you in prison.
It wasn't nice being in prison, having worked the other side of the gate, if I'm honest. It was a really strange experience. I can't speak for all the prisons, but the prison I was in, it was not very clean, not very. The whole place wasn't very clean. It's an old building, Leicester Prison, HMP Leicester. But I was in a wheelchair and I was on the second floor, so I couldn't do anything. So in that 2 weeks, I struggled to get around the wing. I couldn't get to the servery to get my food. I couldn't go out on exercise. I couldn't shower. it was horrendous. There's lots going on in the prisons. I mean, I sat there at my cell door. You get 2 hours association a day, and that's the only association you get, and watched all sorts of things going on, which I won't go into now, but I'm sure you can imagine.
Was you scared?
Initially, yeah, I was, because everybody was aware who I was, which was, it really freaked me out, to be honest. As soon as I got there, I was having people come up to me saying, "Are you the guy that's been arrested for what I was arrested for?" And I was like, "Wow, how do they know that quickly?" It was like first day. So I was, and there was an incident where I ended up with black eye. Again, I don't really want to say too much about that, but there was an incident. So I did felt I had a target on my back, and I got used to it. But yeah, initially I was quite scared. Yeah.
Goodness me. So then you came to trial, and just talk us through that process. You had a jury. Just talk us briefly through that process and the outcome of it.
Okay, so the trial was last week. It went over. I was obviously out on bail when the trial started, so I was being wheeled into court every day by my wife in a wheelchair. I found it the most stressful thing that has ever happened to me. I mean, we've been through a lot as a couple and as a family, but this really finished us. I was having seizures. It was just a real horrible experience. It lasted a week. We got to Friday. The jury was sent to make its decision. On Friday morning, I was remanded back into custody. So we made another bail application to get me back home, and that was refused. The judge said he was right to send me back into custody. So I spent the weekend back at HMP Leicester, having been out for 10, 11 weeks and adhered to all of the terms that they wanted me to adhere to. We went back on Monday. The jury came back, and then my barrister asked me, shall we go for a majority, which I wanted to do at that point because it had been a long week. It was taking its toll on me, my family, everybody. So we just said, yeah, let's just do it. And then an hour later, they came back, and it was not guilty verdict.
Not guilty. And how did you feel when you heard not guilty?
It was such a weight off my shoulders. It really was. It was like a big relief. I remember fist pump in the air as it was like I'd taken on the establishment, if you like, and won, and it felt good. If anything else, there was a lot of tears. I was taken back downstairs afterwards for 4 hours before I was even allowed out. So that's horrific in itself. There was a lot of tears. There was a lot of relief. And we're still coming to terms to it. To be honest, it's been that hard. The last couple of days, we've been so tired, all of us. It's like it's taken it all out of us. And there's so many other people going through the same thing that haven't got the decision that I've got, and they're in jail now, serving long periods of time. So I was justified for what I did. I was justified for pleading not guilty, even though it was super risky. In the fact that if I'd have been found guilty, my sentence would have been longer than the other people that have been sent down, because I was denying it all the way through. That's how it would have worked.
When you say you was denying it, do you mean you was denying it because you wanted to deny it, or because you were denying it because you genuinely were not guilty of what they was accusing you of?
I was denying it because I was genuinely not guilty of what they were accusing me of. What I meant was from their point of view, through their eyes.
Yeah.
The judge's eyes.
So your story essentially has now concluded, and you're able to get on with your life. And as you've just alluded to, there are many people that are not in that situation, who have received sentences for many years, and still others who have yet to be tried. Throughout this process, when all of everything was unfolding, Sir Keir Starmer was very quick to do media press conferences and announce that people that were angry about the goings-on in Southport were essentially far right. That inflamed a lot of people. What's your view on that?
Well, free gear Keir. what can I say about him? I honestly believe, and I said it in my trial, because there was a movement on Twitter. I'm sure people will be aware of it, and it was basically far right thugs unite. But it was after what Keir Starmer said in his public address after the riots started taking place. I honestly believe that he could have handled it so differently to what he did. What he did was actually alienate the people. He basically put everybody into a bracket when there was no need to do that. There were people rioting, which was wrong, and I condemn that 100% in my trial. But there was also people that were protesting that had a genuine concern about a lot of issues in the UK. I just think that the Southport attack wasn't a chance for people to go crazy. It was just a tipping point of things that have happened up to that point. And there are many people that are genuinely concerned about the state of the UK, who we've got living amongst us, immigration, etc., etc. So they have a right to protest. And Keir Starmer coming out how he did and saying what he did, but basically labelling everybody far right thugs, was, I think, a terrible, terrible move. And I think it made the situation 10 times worse.
So you've been through all this now. I mean, I've got to say your experience sounds horrific. Looking back, would you have done things differently if you rewound back to the day of the Southport attacks and stuff? Would you have done anything differently?
No, and I say no because at the end of the day, we are all of us, custodians of free speech. It is our right to do that. It should not cross the line, and mine did not cross the line. I was found not guilty. Would I do anything different? No. There was a discussion when I came out of prison. Shall I just delete all my accounts and not do anything? And you don't post and it was a thought. But then I thought, do you know what? No, why should I? I've been found not guilty. I've not done anything wrong. Yes, my posts, I'm sure people will read them and they'll be close to the bone for some people, but they're my opinion and that they are allowed. And since then, the engagement that I've got with a lot of people has been overwhelming support. So would I do anything different? No. Should other people have done anything different? 100%. There's a lot of people that are now in jail that have pleaded guilty when I don't think necessarily that they should have.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, I can't. Those people are not here, so I can't get into the ins and outs of their cases. But okay, I found that really, really interesting, and I found it interesting as well. You've condemned the rioting, saying that you don't think that people should be taken to the streets, and whether that's setting fire or whatever. That's really interesting. And do you think it hasn't changed you? You wouldn't go back and do anything different, but has it changed you at all as an individual? This whole experience, do you think, Mark?
Yeah, it is because I know I've got an arrow on my back now. I was told that by my barrister. Look, this was a bad loss for the establishment. That they thought this was an easy win for them. They didn't like me saying not guilty from the get-go anyway. I knew that. I could tell that all the way through. It's changed me. I put some comments on Twitter yesterday, and they were very reserved comments and not my usual way I would speak. And somebody did comment and said, "Look, you can see how much you now are tempering what you're putting out there." So it's changed me in a way where I'm having to watch what I say and what I do, which I think is unnecessary, and it's a shame. But I wouldn't change anything. I'm not going to change who I am. I think everybody should be true to themselves. Everybody should have the right to say what they want to say within reason. That's that, really.
Well, there you go. Mark Keith, thank you very much for sharing your story. I'm sorry to hear that you had the experience that you did, and I wish you all the very best and your family all the very best going forward. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks for having me on.